Okay, we're going to do notes for lesson 8-5 here. This particular lesson is essentially just word problems. And with these word problems, usually word problems are really tough, but as you read these word problems, you will always find a right triangle involved. And then from the right triangles, you use sine, cosine, or tangent to solve it. So we're going to read the word problems, we're going to try to draw the diagram, and then see the right triangle. Okay, two words that are important here are going to be angle of elevation as opposed to angle of depression. Angle of elevation, elevate means to go up, so that means you are looking upwards. Angle of depression, like when you are depressed, you are looking down, you are down. So an angle of elevation and an angle of depression is going to require a horizontal line, and then from that horizontal line, like my blue pen, my yellow pen here, that's the horizontal line. Either you look up, and then this angle here is the angle of elevation, or from this horizontal you look down, and this would be the angle of depression. So up, elevation, down, depression. Alright, so in this picture here, this is the horizontal line, and then this from point B here, this is looking downward, so this would be called an angle of depression. And then just the opposite would be this one here, where you have a horizontal line from point A, and then you look up. This angle right here is the angle of elevation. Okay, so you're going to see these words in the word problems. Let's just basically, again, with this picture here, decide which one is angle of elevation and angle of depression. Angle 1 here, here's that horizontal. There's a guy in the airplane, and he looks downwards at the airplane tower. This is an angle of depression from the pilot's perspective down to the ground here. Angle 2 is a guy in the control tower. Here's the horizontal, this dash, dash, dash line, and then he looks up, sees the airplane. That is the angle of elevation. That is from the perspective of the person in the control tower. Angle 3 here, the guy's in the control tower and he looks downwards. Again, you've got to look out and then look down, and then that's where the angle is formed. Angle 3 is an angle of depression. He sees a worker down there on the landing strip, and then from this worker he looks out, then looks up at the control tower. That is an angle of elevation. Whether you look up or look down, elevation up, depression down. Okay, now we're going to do two problems here that are basically word problems, and again, what we're going to do is read them, pick out the important words, and try to draw the picture here. Number 2, you sight a rock climber on a cliff at a 32-degree angle of elevation. The horizontal ground distance to the cliff is 1,000 feet. Find the line of sight distance to the rock climber. So let's try to draw this. So this is you. You're just standing here minding your own business, and then you see a rock climber on a cliff. So there's this big old cliff here, and there's this crazy man climbing this thing. Okay, and you see him with an angle of elevation of 32 degrees. So that means when you have an angle of elevation, you've got to look straight out, and then you look up, and then you see this crazy man there. This right here is the angle of elevation, 32 degrees. The horizontal, that's an important word, ground distance to the cliff is 1,000 feet. So on the ground, horizontally is left to right, vertically is up and down. So they want the horizontal ground distance of 1,000 feet. So from you to this cliff is 1,000 feet. Find, of course that's x, the line of sight distance. So whatever you're trying to find is x. The line of sight to the rock climber. So here you are with your eyeballs, and this is the line of sight. So this will be x here. Okay. So what we have here is going to be a right triangle. And angle of elevation 32, line of sight looks like the hypotenuse. This 1,000 feet is on the ground, but I can also put it right here, 1,000 feet in this yellow right triangle. If you look carefully at this yellow right triangle, you can just stand here at 32. This is adjacent. This is the hypotenuse. So you would say cosine 32 is adjacent over hypotenuse x, the line of sight. Right? And then, of course, at this point, everything is just based on the calculator here. So let me go cosine of 32 degrees turns into 0.8480 over 1,000 over x. X is on the bottom, so I'm going to put that over 1. So I got 0.8480x is equal to 1 times 1,000 is 1,000. And then I'm going to have to divide by 0.8480. And then we will get the line of sight. So 1,000 divided by 0.848. The line of sight is 1,179, is that feet? Yeah, that is feet. Whoops, I'm not even on the screen, sorry there. 1,179 feet. Okay, but so cosine, and then just solve for x. But notice the picture and the right triangle here. So there's a couple of key things. You got to know what the angle of elevation is. Horizontal distance, the distance to the cliff. This, if they asked for this, this would have been the height. This could have been the altitude. This could have been the vertical distance. This is the line of sight. So you're going to see some of these key words here when you read these word problems, and then you will set it up, and then you will see this right triangle. Okay, let's try the next problem here. Number 3. An airplane pilot sees a life raft at a 26-degree angle of depression. The airplane's altitude is 3 miles. What is the airplane's surface distance, d, from the raft? All right, let's try to draw this scenario. An airplane pilot. So let's assume this airplane is in the air. And this airplane pilot sees a life raft at a 26-degree angle of depression. So he's flying around, and then there's this poor guy suffering in the middle of the ocean here. And the airplane guy can see this guy in the life raft. Sees it with a 26-degree angle of depression. So that means you go straight out, which is called a horizontal, and then he looks down and he can see this guy. 26 degrees right there. The next line, the airplane's altitude is 3 miles. Altitude is like height. The airplane is straight up and down 3 miles in the air. What is, of course, that's x, the airplane's surface distance from the raft. Surface, this being the surface where the water is. They actually use the letter D. I'm just going to use the letter x here, but this is the surface distance that they want, x. Okay, horizontal distance, surface distance. If they wanted this one, this would have been line of sight, but that's it. Hopefully you can see the right triangle here, and I'll highlight it here in yellow. You've got 3 mile height, altitude, vertical distance. You've got x, the distance you're going, the surface distance. Notice the 26 is not in the picture itself right now. The horizontal, the red pen, and the water here are meant to be parallel. So if it's 26 here, based on alternate interior angles, it's also 26 down here. Notice what is not 26 degrees. This is not considered the angle of depression. Don't make this dot the angle of depression. Not where he sees a lifeguard and then looks straight down. That is not the angle of depression. He looks out, then down. That's the angle of depression. To get this 26 into the yellow triangle, alternate interior angles, it's here. If you actually want this angle, this would be 64, because 64 plus 26 is 90 degrees. And that would be 90 degrees. All right, let's just use the 26 here. I've got opposite, I've got adjacent, so we're going to go tangent of 26 degrees, opposite over adjacent, and then hopefully everybody understands how to solve it from here. You would just punch in tangent of 26.4877 is equal to 3 over x, put this over 1, cross multiply this, 0.8477x is equal to 3, so 3 divided by this ugly number is 6.15. So the airplane is 6.15 miles away in terms of ground distance. This is a different measurement, this would have been called line of sight. This is ground distance, surface distance, horizontal distance. Okay, that's miles. Okay, those are the notes.